let's finish off with an update on the Colonial Pipeline and their ransomware attack.
Correct, yes. Dark Side was the group that hit Colonial Pipeline. And what this is brought to people's minds is that there's a lot of other infrastructure out there. We've been talking about the electrical infrastructure as being critical, especially when we saw what happened in Texas when the power grid went down. But now people are realizing that these pipelines that carry critical resources like gas are also very important infrastructure to protect. So the Department of Homeland Security in the US has announced new cybersecurity requirements for pipeline owners and operators. So they've come out and said, you've got to improve things. So they have, within 30 days, they have to provide a plan to remediate and address their cyber-related risks. So I don't know if we've talked about it in the Optrics Insider before, but the SCADA or ICS networks, the ones that manage the infrastructure, the people that run those networks, they're very good at the job that they do. They're very good at doing the pipeline, or they're very good at doing the water. They're very good at taking care of their core functionality. Where they tend to have a requirement to enhance things is with the networking security around it. You can hear all sorts of stories about people just finding, here's the control panel that manages a power plant or the water for an entire organization, just available on the internet. You can just, if you use the right tool, you can find it, and then you get to see, or how fast are the pumps running. And with the poor security, you could then, as was reported recently, make a change to it. There was a water supply, and I don't remember the details on it, where an operator, a malicious operator, came in and said, oh, you're dumping in this chemical to sanitize things. We're going to increase the rate at which we dump that chemical in by 1,000 times, which now makes it harmful. So this is great that the Department of Homeland Security, specifically their Transportation Security Administration, announcing this directive to better identify, protect, and respond to threats to critical companies in the pipeline sector. It's not just oil and gas, it could be water, it could be anything else that can go running down a pipe.
Interesting. That reminded me of a couple of things. One is there's an interesting podcast I like to listen to every once in a while called Stuff You Should Know. And they did a really great episode on the electrical grid in the US and how fragile it was. And I'm going to include a link in the show notes if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening to it as a podcast, that's worth checking out. And also, it reminded me of, I think it was when Hawaii had a tsunami approaching them, and they had a gentleman on the news who was, I guess, part of the tsunami response unit, and they were the ones that set off the tsunami alarms or something like that, and he had the password to the system on a post-it note, and they were interviewing him on TV, and this password was on display. And yes. So having passwords on post-it notes, especially if you're operating a SCADA system, and maybe there's an air gap between the network and the outside world, the internet, and the SCADA system itself. But if you have passwords posted all over the place and you have visitors, it's probably not a good idea.
No, we've seen that so many times. Yeah. The other Colonial Pipeline update is that the organization that did the ransoming, Dark Side, they've received so much news attention and police attention, FBI attention, that they are saying that they're shutting down. They're they're out of that business. They didn't shut down early enough, and they were already paid $5 million as part of the ransom for Colonial. So they did all right when it comes to running their ransomware scheme, but definitely there's going to be a target on them. The FBI is going to be coming after them, or the Department of Homeland Security. So it's good that they shut down.
So they're retired to a non-extradition country, perhaps. Who knows?
Who knows?
The world of intrigue. I think, yeah, it just shows how fragile and reliant we are on certain things that, 150 years ago we weren't reliant on. So, anything else you'd like to add there, Sean?
Not at this point. Nope. That's all we've got for today.